Welcome back to another video. Yesterday I didn't want to record it right away. One, because I already uploaded, and two, because I knew a lot of NBA news was going to kind of come out yesterday, and there probably still is going to be some today as I'm recording this relatively early today. But there's going to be, I think, a lot of news that comes out today about player options. And yesterday there was obviously a decent amount of player options, so that's why I kind of wanted to wait. Especially with the guarantee to pay, some contracts is also coming up for a lot of players, which obviously means that players are probably going to get traded if they don't want to pay them that full price or buy them out or whatever it is. Anyways, biggest thing obviously yesterday, the Dejounte Murray trade. At first, when I first saw this, it was just a tweet from Shams and Woj saying Dejounte Murray got traded to the Pelicans. It had no details, just straight up Dejounte Murray got traded to the Pelicans. First thing that I thought in my head was this is going to be for Brandon Ingram, and I don't know what else was going to be in the deal. But I thought Brandon Ingram for sure was going to be a part of this, as Brandon Ingram's also been a name that's been in the market as someone that's going to be traded possibly. And then also with the Hawks being one of the teams that had interest in getting him. And I felt like it kind of made sense. I feel like with this Hawks team, they're still not a bad team, and they're maybe a few moves away from them possibly being a team that competes. So I thought maybe they said, hey, maybe the fit makes more sense. We're going to trade Dejounte, get Brandon Ingram. But that's not what they did. Instead, they kind of chose the direction, it seems like, which it seems like they're going more of a rebuild. Trading Dejounte Murray for Dyson Daniels, Larry Nance, and 2 first-round picks. So the 2 first are the Lakers' first-round pick next year, and then in 2027, it's a swap worse between the Bucks and the Pelicans. So, assuming, obviously, I don't think nothing's going to be too crazy that happens in 2027 between the Bucks and the Pelicans. So, I think that's not going to be a lottery pick at least. And the Lakers seem like they're at least good enough to not be a lottery team this year. So, I think both picks are not going to be that high of first-round picks. But at the end of the day, they're first. The draft class next year seems like it's a lot deeper than this one, so maybe that Lakers pick could still get them something pretty good next year, depending on where the Lakers end up finishing. The one thing I do like a lot for the Hawks in this trade is Dyson Daniels. And I guess choosing a direction, I mean, they kind of been stuck in this middle ground. You had the first pick this year. Jalen Johnson has showed a lot of potential. Your team's really young. Now you're getting a young guy in Dyson Daniels. And I think that's the, best thing about this trade probably is the Dyson Daniels part. But I don't know. I mean, the value for this trade, I definitely think it's a little bit of a surprise. And I like this a lot for the Pelicans. The biggest thing, for the Hawks that is nice to know, at least, if you're a Hawks fan, is they chose the direction of the team. I think that's better than just kind of staying at a middle ground every year and just being kind of mediocre every year. I personally would not want to be a fan of a team that doesn't really decide to make any changes to kind of blow it up or really push to compete. So at least he kind of chose a direction. I don't know what's going to happen with Trae Young now because, he's still relatively young. But it seems like they're going kind of a rebuild route, so who knows what happens. For the Pelicans, though, my biggest question, I think, is really about how this team is going to be with contracts. I don't know if they're going to still pay Brandon Ingram here, we could go find it because, right here from Woj. He said that that all doesn't matter. Pels remain committed to the core, including Zion and CJ McCollum, and then it says they're trying to find common ground with Brandon Ingram on a contract. So it kind of sounds like they're not ruling out that Brandon Ingram won't stay with this team. But to me, I don't see it happening, mainly because I feel like based off contracts now, I don't know what they do. I think Herb Jones and Trey Murphy have shown that by the time they're, in need of a new contract, they're going to need to get paid also. And that's just way too expensive of a team. Like, they're going to have to find a way to get off some of these contracts. And so, I don't know. I think maybe they decide to just say, hey, let's run it with this team this year and see what happens. And then next year, when Brandon Ingram becomes a free agent, hopefully we can retain him, or depending on how we did, we'll see what matters and who we should keep. But that could also be a big risk too, because if they go out and Brandon Ingram doesn't want to return, they could lose him for nothing in free agency next year. So I don't know. That's my biggest thing about this trade for them is, yeah, they look really, really good right now. But are they going to trade Brandon Ingram? What they're going to end up getting for Brandon Ingram is a big part of this. And also, I think they do need to get a center. I mean, they drafted one, but I think that they definitely do need to get more of a veteran center if they want to be a true, contender. But I still think this is a really good trade for them. I just am now trying to think of what they're going to do when it comes to, contracts. But yeah, so that's kind of that full thing about that trade. I think it kind of played out, and because of that, it kind of has a big part to do with this, as we see right here, of, D'Angelo Russell accepted his player option. I think that Dejounte Murray trade was a big part of it. And it's going to be, I think, a big part of a lot for free agency with a lot of teams, as he was probably the top available guard. Obviously, there's speculation with possibly Trae Young still. But relatively, he's one of the more available guards that was, the best available, I guess you could say. And now that he's off the market, a lot of these teams with guards, it's like, well, what are you going to do now? Like D'Angelo Russell, it says that his number one priority is to win a championship, so he opted in. I think for him it makes a lot of sense, to opt in if that's his number one priority, as all the top teams this year with cap space are all teams that aren't really, contenders. We got the Jazz, the Spurs, the Pistons, all three of them definitely you're not winning a championship with. And the only one that's really close is the Orlando Magic. So, yeah, I mean, there's still a world where D'Lo gets traded, and I think that could happen. But to me, I don't think it will happen, at least until the deadline, mainly because you have to kind of think about the market. I mean, if they're trading D'Lo, I'm assuming it's to try to upgrade at guard, because if you lose him at point guard, you don't really got a guard. But, I mean, if you look at the market, there's not really many available, as Dejounte Murray was kind of the top guy that he could have got traded for. And unless, Trae Young is available from the Hawks and they find a way to make that work, there's no other way that they're going to get anyone that I think is a better option than D'Angelo Russell, especially for what they might possibly have to give up to maybe, upgrade. And I think that because of that, it just makes sense for them to keep him. I know a lot of Lakers fans probably are also thinking, well, if they ended up, getting Dejounte Murray for this package, how could we have not got it? Or the Lakers, how could we have not gave a better package for this trade? But yeah, so we saw that because of that trade, we saw D'Lo opt in. I think that was a big part of it. We also saw Joe Ingles, he opted out, or the team option, they declined it, so he's likely going to be gone. Kevin Love declined his, but he'll likely re-sign on a new deal. Westbrook picked up his option. Jayshawn Tate picked up his option. I think he could be a big trade name, and that's why they picked it up, as they want to at least get him for something. Atlanta Hawks, this is, I guess, probably the biggest one, is that Saddiq Bey. They declined or they didn't give him a qualifying offer, and he's going to become an unrestricted free agent. So it'd be nice to see where he ends up, like I said, the Hawks kind of seems like they're going a rebuild route. And it looks like they're kind of saying, okay, well, let's just move on from Saddiq Bey. So this Hawks team is going to look really different. Like I said, I don't know what's going to happen with, Trae Young, if he's available or not. But I think it's going to be a really different team. And then kind of the last news we got, which was an hour ago, was Royce O'Neal signing this new deal. And I do really like it for him personally, to sign a 4-year deal as a relatively older player. That longevity on that contract, I think, is really nice for him. Getting $44 million, so he's getting basically $11 million a year. And I think it makes a lot of sense also for the Suns, is one of their best, role players on a team with pretty bad depth. It makes sense to go out and get, obviously, your best role player back on your team, or one of your better role players. So yeah, that's basically all that happened yesterday, and a little bit of that was also today. I expect more news to probably come out later today, as it's relatively early, and player options are coming down to the wire of when people have to, make a decision. Paul George being really the biggest one left. And yeah, so I expect to see more news, whether it's trades, free agency stuff. We're not that far away from free agency. So, they're going to see some more news. But this was a big trade for sure. Definitely think the Pelicans are probably my winner. I don't like to really give out winners until I see people play and how the full trade plays out. But if I was, having to pick a winner in this trade, it would probably be the Pelicans, as I think this is really good value for Dejounte Murray that they gave up. And then for the Hawks, I do really like Dyson Daniels. I think Dyson Daniels could actually be someone that plays really well on this Hawks team, depending on obviously what happens with Trae Young also. I think I'm buying even more stock in Dyson Daniels then. But I think Dyson Daniels could be really, really nice on this Hawks team. But that's, I think, really the main thing they get. I mean, the two first, like I said, relatively later picks probably. But overall, this Hawks team is going to be interesting to watch. This Pelicans team is going to be interesting to watch also, as they're going to probably be a lot better. Like I said, we still got to see what happens with Brandon Ingram and free agency. But that's really it. Just kind of want to make a quick video on basically the trade that happened yesterday, and then just a little bit of other NBA news we got in the last few days with player options and stuff. But yeah, so y'all let me know how y'all feel about this. If you're a Pelicans fan, Hawks fan, an NBA fan in general. And yeah, I'll see y'all in the next one, and thanks for watching.